So I have had a couple of students ask me to go over Copic's shading with them, or I shouldn't say Copic's, but alcohol-based marker coloring with them. And I do teach it extensively in my magic mark making module. Say that 10 times fast. But I do understand that it's really helpful to, you know, see something over and over again, and obviously it's different every time, and sometimes a teacher says one thing in one lesson and says it differently in a different lesson, and one thing, you know, somebody will absorb and the other one forgotten. So I am totally cool with trying this again and posting on YouTube so I can reach my broader non-paying friends as well and pay tribute to them also. So I'm happy to do that. So I've had one person ask me, and you know who you are, to do a blue-skinned girl, which I'm totally happy to do because I love me some freaky blue-skinned aliens any day. I feel like they're kind of related to our fairy friends in some way, so that's cool. And and then I'm gonna do a normal Caucasian person also. I do go over darker skinned girls in my my online class at awesomeartstool.com. So if you want the full Monty, you can go to my website and go check that class out. That's my second module of Art of Play, again called Magic Mark Makers. But this should be pretty thorough. Also, I'm trying to work in my my new art journal that I made out of Honey Bunches of Oats cereal boxes. Some of you may have seen my other videos. I show the making of and the cover in one video, and then I have another video where I make this ridiculous spread. Leaves, loose leaves and all. I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna turn the page and pretend she's not there. Although I might have to skip a page because she's gonna be a little bumpy for the precise marker work that we're doing today. So I wanted to add into my journal and have a little lesson on the alcohol marker based shading. I do have Copics. I have actually probably 6 different brands of alcohol markers. I like to mix and match, but I know my girlfriend Dot was asking if I could please tell her when I'm drawing what the exact shades are. So I am happy to do that. Don't run out and buy everything, but I am happy. I understand that that is helpful when you're trying to learn. So that's fine. I'm using Bristol paper today, which is my favorite paper to use when I'm doing I'm just going to say Copics because it's so much faster than saying alcohol-based markers, even though they're not Copics. Well, some are, but I'm trying not to use them today because I know most of my students do not have them. So I'm going to be using my cheaper ones, the Spectrum Noir, and whatever else I got going on there. So anyways, the big advantage of the Copics is that they have the nice brush tip, which is really nice. But, you know, whatever. We can't all be millionaires. That's cool. So I'm using my Bristol paper. It's my favorite one to use with Copics, like I said, because it's super smooth. I just have good results with it. The smoother Bristol, the better. This isn't actually the smoothest I've used, but it's what I have today, so that's what I'm going to be using. I have zero plan in mind. Well, it's not true. I kind of envision, because I need to have one blue girl and one not blue girl. This is not all going to be real time because this would be like probably a 3-hour video. So I'm going to speed some stuff up, but I wanted to take the time to explain to you what I was doing today. Excuse my voice and my throat clearing. I've had the worst cold. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to get started. I'm going to start it by trimming these papers and then adhering them, and you can watch me do that. And I'll kind of bop in and out of real time and time lapse so we can go along our merry way and not take too much time, but also have a clear, concise overview of what's happening. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so the two colors I am going to be using are FS3 and FS5. Okay, this is their new portrait series they have at Michael's, I believe. And they have like brush tip for these new ones, but they're both Spectrum Noir. Oh, excuse me, this is Illustrator, so fancy. And this is the original ones that are bullet tip on one and the chisel tip, which is not my favorite, but whatever. Okay, so you can start with either the light or the dark, but you're essentially going to be blending these in together. I usually start with my lighter color first, which in this case is the FS3. And I kind of go all around, and I'm going to leave the highlights, usually I just leave them white. I just leave them alone. You can obviously too, if you skip some, go back afterwards with white, like a white opaque paint marker, and that's fine too. So let's see, I'm gonna pretend the sun is coming from like over here. So what's gonna be shaded? Like under her hair, all her hair underneath is gonna be shaded. The highlight will be on this side of her ridiculously simplified cartoon nose. And maybe part of her cheek, and the rest will all be skin color. So you kind of want to be nice and smooth when you do Copics, okay? Because it can tend to be streaky if you're not careful. So working in super straightforward marks can sometimes, sort of forgot hair in that section, help you out a little bit. I do avoid the Sharpie. It can drag, especially if there is graphite under there hiding. Okay, but you want to do smooth techniques. I've seen a lot of people do like circular techniques, almost like colored pencil, if you will. But I find just being kind of calm and smooth can take away a little bit of that streakiness. Maybe I'll leave a little bit on her forehead as a highlight too. We can leave it and then see what happens. So like there's going to be her nose. So I'm just carefully outlining her face. Now it looks a little weird to leave the highlight because she's a cartoon character. So I'm going to fill that in. If this was a more realistic face or a whimsical girl, I might get a little fancy, but see, now it looks a little choppy because I wasn't smooth and consistent. But if you just wait a second and let the paper soak in the alcohol, usually works out okay. So you want kind of calm and consistent strokes. Okay, so I did her whole face, just one shade. Okay, so now I'm not doing the highlights because again, she's a weird cartoon girl. But I am gonna pop in some shadows. So I'm just taking the darker shade, which is the FS5 or peach. And I'm gonna just put in some shadows under where her hair meets her face. I don't know what's happening there, I forgot hair. And down along the side of her. Her neck will be shaded, as will this area under her chin here, her hair, and then this will be shaded, and this. Okay, I'm gonna. Next thing you can do is you can you need to come in here and do her nose. Her cartoon nose is casting a shadow on this side of her face right there. And if you want to, you could also circle the eyes and bring it around a little bit. Okay. This would be like her eye crease. And you could really pretty much leave it at that. All right. And if you want to do a little, like take your bullet, you know, and really it's up to you how far you, or how not far you want to go. If you want to take the edge off of her crazy, you know, triggered eyeballs, you could take some light gray and add the shadow line. This is my really fancy hobby color. No, just kidding. Hobby color cool gray wand. I picked it up at like a what's it called? Tuesday Morning, which has just like reject from various stores. Anyhow, all the alcohol markers are interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter. Pink lips. Where all my pinks went. You can also do some shading with just using the same color if you want to repeat it on top. There's no rules saying you can't do that. And the more layers you add, it will become slightly darker. So if you're too frightened to try to do shadows in more than one color, you can certainly try doing it with just one color. So dark. So again, if you don't have the right color, you could just repeat the same color on top to get the next darkest shade. So these two are one step apart. So that would work, but that's just such a dark skin tone. So why don't we do that? We'll do the alien in a blue. And this is Light Cerulean Blue by Prismacolor. Again, I've had this since 2000 and it's still rocking it, and I've used it a ton. So I'm going to just do my base coat. Again, you're going to just go nice and easy. Okay. Ooh, that looks cool. That looks super cool. I mean, you could even just do like your shadows. And not even color her all the way in. This gives her the indication of having blue skin without actually like coloring her all the way in. So just doing something like that would be an option. For sure. For sure. Sound like some crazy 1980s Hollywood star. For sure. But yeah, I love that. And that's essentially where your shadows are going to go after you fill it in the first time. But that looks like a super cool. Soak in, and some of those lines will dissipate auto-magically. So she looks like a Smurf. So you can just do the same color on top. Again, if you don't have the right next shade, just layer with the same color that you already have. That's fine. Okay, and it will kick back a little bit. So you can do it a third time if you want. Okay, until you get the shading that you desired. Or you can kick it up a notch and just do a swash of a real dark one. But that's fine. You can still see the difference for sure. For sure. Did it again. Again. You do need to move kind of quickly. I find the faster I work, the more that it's sort of like wet on wet. They blend much better. I've also seen, let's see, there's hardly no extra marking there. I've seen using this circular approach, but I find it only works really good in small works. It definitely works awesome. But I find in larger, you know, portraits, if you're doing your girls, it's less successful because you get sort of a blobby appearance. So, like everything else in art, yes, you have to play and experiment and just learn what works for you. They're very permanent and bold. But don't forget too, you're not just limited. If you want to do something in Copic, that's fine. But if you want to go back with, say, you know, a jelly roll or something, who's to say you can't, you know, add some details with other mediums on top, right? So you're really only limited by your imagination. So don't forget about your other forms of media. I feel like she super has to have pink hair, but the pinks I have. In the earth, I used Amazing Color BT8. And that green is LG5. Again, who is in charge of these lame colors? Choice words. Seriously, people. Alright, so if you want to put some, accentuate her hair, like this piece of hair, you have two choices. You can make it all darker because it's behind her head, or you can just put in a shadow line right there. This is color BP7. So realistically, since this is behind her, you could make that whole swatch darker, right? You could also, you know, just accentuate pieces if you want to. It's all good. Just have fun. Just have fun, you guys. Okay, there's our amazing, completely flat earth. If I wanted to make that look a little rounded, you know, we're getting crazy. This is just a silly, silly drawing, but, you know, you could have it darker on the edges.